evening, everybody. My name is Martha Gatch, and I am the acting chair for tonight's meeting of the Open Space and Recreation Plan Committee. I would now like to open this meeting. We'll start with a roll call of members. Paul Gannon.
Present.
Prashanth Ram.
Here.
Tom Sewick.
Present.
James Brown.
Present.
Kevin Esposito.
Present.
Bernie Cahill.
Present, though I'm not a committee member.
Yeah, but you're here. Martha Gatch present. And who did I miss?
Melody Singh.
Oh, no, we're just
For
doing
committee
the
meeting?
open space
Oh, sorry.
committee members. That's
Sorry.
okay. We're opening a committee meeting as well because we have a quorum of members, so we have to open an OSRP committee meeting as well. Thank you, Martha. We have a quorum of members. I'm going to read out a statement regarding pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, GL Chapter 30A, Section 18, and the Governor's March 15, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place. This meeting of the OSRP committee will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. For this meeting, we've asked people to register on Zoom to respond. It is being recorded and will eventually play. I believe it's being broadcast live tonight if Shrewsbury Media Connect, I believe they're in attendance, and will also be replayed on the Shrewsbury Media Connect and on cable. Please mute your device until the chair of, sorry, in this case, not the chair, until the mediators, myself or Mimi Kaplan call on you. We're asking people to participate though because of the number of people via chat on Zoom. Every effort will be made to ensure that all of you can access these this public forum tonight in real time and via technology. In the event that we're not able to do so, despite our best efforts, we will post this public forum, an audio and video recording, transcript, or otherwise a recording of the proceedings as soon as possible after the forum. So I'm just going to check our numbers now before we really get started here. We're up to 27 participants, so I believe I am going to go ahead and start. Thank you, everyone. Good evening. My name is Bernard Cahill. I am the town planner in Shrewsbury. Thank you for participating in this evening's Open Space and Recreation Plan Update Remote Public Forum, which is a lot of words. Open space and recreation plans are a tool through which a community plans for the future of its conservation and recreation resources. It establishes the community's aspirations and recommends patterns of development that will support them. Furthermore, when a community has an approved OSRP, it becomes eligible for Department of Conservation Services grant programs. The last Shrewsbury OSRP update was completed in 2012 and expired last year in 2019. An update is what its name would have you believe it is. It is an up-to-date open space plan. It is a complete plan containing all the components of the original open space and recreation plan. The difference between an update and a town's previous plan is always that an update builds on the previous plan by revising those sections that no longer accurately reflect the character, needs, and goals of the community. So a new OSRP committee was appointed by the Board of Selectmen last year in 2019 to assist in the preparation of updating the OSRP plan. Joining us this evening, as you just might have heard in the roll call, is a majority of OSRP committee members, including Martha Gatch, Paul Gannon, Tom Sewick, Jim Brown, Prashanth Ram, and Peter Collins. The town of Shrewsbury also contracted with the Central Massachusetts Regional Planning Commission, or CMRPC, which some of you might be familiar with, to aid the committee and town staff with gathering data and writing the OSRP update. Mimi Kaplan from CMRPC is also here with us tonight to help facilitate our discussion and will be presenting a brief PowerPoint momentarily. But OSRPs are not just crafted by the committee and our consultant, but are also heavily informed by a thorough public participation process in order to better reflect the needs and desires of the community. A comprehensive public survey was conducted in November-December of 2019 by this committee, and this evening's public forum is the next major step in soliciting public feedback, your feedback. The forum will divide into two parts tonight: an overview of OSRP, open space and recreation plans in general, followed by an open discussion around three topics covering open space and recreation in Shrewsbury. Now, before I hand the mic over to Mimi, I would like to encourage all participants to use the chat function in Zoom to ask questions or to communicate an opinion during the forum. We thought that this would be the most manageable way to hear and address the concerns of a large number of participants. Now, without further ado, I will give Mimi the floor. Mimi, over to you.
Thank you, Bernie. Thanks for everybody for participating. We really appreciate you taking the time to attend this tonight and offer your feedback. So I am going to share my screen. Everybody can see that. I'm going to okay. All right. Can everybody see the slides?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I will begin. A number of people have written their, you actually, you don't need to write your name if your name is up already, but if you could write your name and also your favorite open space recreational area in Shrewsbury, that would be great feedback for us. So I'll start off, Bernie gave a great introduction about what an OSRP is and some of the process leading up to tonight. I'll give you a little bit more detail. So what is an open space and recreation plan? It is a planning effort undertaken by the town to articulate the community's vision for the town's open spaces and also to come up with the strategies to preserve and enhance those open spaces. It's also to make the benefits of open space accessible to all the residents of the community and to inventory all undeveloped land, both protected land and unprotected land, which might have ecological value or recreational value. So why plan for open space and recreation? So open spaces have a lot of benefits for communities, environmental, health, and economic benefits. Environmental benefits, clean air and water, carbon and flood storage, wildlife habitat, health benefits such as fresh air, sorry, I lost my notes here. Interactions with nature, exercise, social interactions, and economic benefits as well, with people, which people don't always think about. But some of the economic benefits are that number of studies have shown that open spaces raise the value of adjacent land, lowers cost for the town because they don't require the level of services that developed land does. And also open spaces promote ecotourism. So in other words, if people are coming to walk on trails, to bike, to come to baseball games, they will then patronize local businesses and improve, provide economic benefits for the town. Planning for open space and recreation also helps communities use their available and often limited resources most efficiently. So their natural resources as well as financial resources. And as Bernie mentioned, a community with an approved open space and recreation plan becomes eligible to apply state grants. The land and park grants they provide funding for towns to acquire land for protection, conservation, and also for improving and maintaining recreational facilities. So the purpose of the forum tonight, two main things, is for you to let us know, the committee, and Bernie and myself and Emily and Idas, let us know what you think the plan's priorities should be, and to identify key areas and open spaces in town that you feel should be the focus of protection, improvement, and other types of efforts. So when we talk about open space, it's kind of a broad term. It can mean a lot of things. So people typically think of it as conservation land. and also forest land, agricultural land, recreation land, parks, or open spaces that are owned by conservation agencies. It can also be any undeveloped land that has a conservation or recreation interest for the town. So as I mentioned before, land that's not currently protected or that the town does not currently own, but that could be valuable ecologically or for recreational purposes. Also, it means undeveloped land that's used for passive recreation or active recreation. And those are terms that are used in the plan and will be used tonight. So passive recreation refers to activities such as walking, hiking, biking, nature study, and active recreation refers to any kind of organized sports. So as Bernie also mentioned, the town has had developed previous open space and recreation plans. I think there have been 3 in the past. The most recent was 2012. They expire after 7 years, and the town, in order to be eligible for those grants, needs to update their plan. So in 2012, the committee identified 6 goals, 19 objectives, and more than 50 action items. A number of those action items were accomplished, a number were not, and some of those have been updated or revised and added to the current plan. I'll just mention that one of the big accomplishments from the previous plan was establishing a trails committee, and it is now a very active trails committee, and there's been increased participation in in passive and active recreation. So the planning process for an OSRP, it's a pretty long process, generally about a year. It starts with establishing the OSRP committee, and that happened last summer 2019, designating the staff from the town, hiring a consultant, in this case CMRP, to work on the plan, collecting data. So data on demographics, housing, economics, employers, other types of data from the US Census and other sources, collecting data on environmental issues and concerns, on water quality, and also an inventory of all open spaces in the town. And then community input, which Bernie talked about. We conducted the survey in fall 2019, and then the community forum tonight is the other main way of soliciting community input. And then preparing the document, bringing it to the town for approval, and then submitting it to the state for approval. That's the entire process from soup to nuts. What we have done so far is most of the data collection. There's still some work to be done on the inventorying of open space, but we have done all of the updates to the demographic and household data, updated the environmental data, and updated the goals, objectives, and action plans. So we have a draft of all the goals, the updated goals, objectives, and the action plan. The committee input, there have been 6 meetings of the committee, so about once every 2 months, and the survey that was conducted last fall. So in the file, the Dropbox file that everyone got, there is the entire document of the draft goals and objectives. I didn't have room to include the whole thing in the slideshow, but I just wanted to go over just the goals. They've been changed a little, updated a little, revised since 2012. So goal, and also just to keep in mind that goals are the outcomes that we want to achieve, whereas the objectives are the steps to achieve those goals. So these aren't specific things, these are like the aspirational. So goal 1, protect and preserve open space parcels, and identify opportunities for new open space. 2 is protecting and enhancing habitat 3, planning and developing greenways in town. So that can mean trails, bike paths, any type of linear path that goes along an open space, with consideration for regional connections. So ways that these greenways can connect to each other in town as well as regionally. Maintaining and enhancing the town's recreational and park facilities, protecting the town's drinking water sources, which of course is critical, and protecting surface water resources, also critical. So briefly, I'll go over the themes, the key themes from the survey. There were a lot of questions. I can't present it all here. A large majority, 87% of respondents said it was very important to preserve open space and natural areas in Shrewsbury. The 3 top primary reasons that respondents gave for protecting or acquiring land was to protect water supplies, protect habitats, and reduce the effects of climate change. The 3 top biggest unmet needs that respondents chose was water supply protection, protection of ecologically valuable parcels, and protection of agricultural land. I'm just giving, because of lack of time, I'm only giving like the top responses, but there were some other fairly popular unmet needs cited, such as a dog park, children's playgrounds, and a recreational center building. And then the 3 top priorities that respondents gave for the town, for future expenditures for the town, were improving existing passive recreation. So again, trails, mainly like hiking and walking and biking. Acquiring conservation land for passive recreation, and expanding walking and biking connections. There's a few other things that didn't fit on here that I'll just tell you. So there was general satisfaction with the variety and number of recreational programs and opportunities for children, and the variety and number of outdoor recreational facilities. There was less satisfaction with the variety, number, and condition of indoor facilities, and less satisfaction with the amount and condition of sidewalks, variety, amount, and condition of bike paths. So that's very high level kind of overview. That there are not, there's not a survey results in the Dropbox, but I think we could probably post that somewhere so that you could see all of the results. So the agenda for tonight, after this presentation, we will move into the group discussion, which is really the main part of the meeting tonight. And the discussion will address 3 main topics. So had this been an in-person meeting, we would have broken out into groups, with each group addressing one of those questions, but we decided with it being virtual, it would be easier just as a whole group to discuss all 3 questions. So there will thus be a little more limited time for each question. So we're shooting for about 30 minutes total for this discussion. So it could go over a little bit. So the first question, and I realize it might be helpful for me to write these in the chat for people to refer back to. But so the first question is, or the first topic is indoor and outdoor recreational facilities. We want to know what you think is satisfactory, what programs or facilities are needed or need to be improved. The second topic is open spaces for preservation or conservation, scenic areas and routes. Again, what is needed and what parcels of land should be protected and where are those parcels of land. And connectivity and passive recreation. Again, walking, hiking, biking, cross-country skiing, even snowmobiling. What is needed for these things to improve, and what is needed to improve, and what is needed to expand trails and connectivity. So those are the 3 topics, as Bernie mentioned, we're going to try to have people, we're going to have people put their comments and questions in the chat, and then Itis is going to read them aloud, and then people can, and committee members and Bernie and I can respond. And then once the discussion is over, we will go to briefly closing and next steps. And I do have one slide just explaining what the next steps are after this. So we will analyze the feedback collected here. That will be incorporated into the report and into the goals and objectives. There will be a couple more committee meetings in the fall to kind of finish things up. A draft, I will finish up the draft report and present it to the town for approval. And then the final report will be submitted to Department of Conservation Services. And that is it. Again, thank you so much for your participation. And I am going to stop screen sharing. I'm thinking, Bernie, you think it would be helpful to put those questions in the chat so people can refer to them since we're putting the map up?
Yes, why don't we do the first topic at a time? So we'll do one topic. So put the first topic up, which was indoor outdoor.
Yeah, I'll just put that in here.
So we're going to try to keep it by subject matter. So for right now, we're talking about indoor outdoor recreation. So any comments or questions you have about that, now's a great time to chat. Send your question this way. I forgot to introduce him. Itis Rudis is the assistant town planner. He's on here as well. He'll be processing all your questions, and Emily Larson's the planning department administrator. So she's here to help as well. So if you do have questions, we'll be reading them out loud and doing our best to answer them. If you just have a comment about where something you like, something you dislike, that's great too. Maybe are you going to put the map up? We have a map of the open spaces. Or do you want to just wait?
I do that, or Itis, were you going to do that?
I could do that.
I can. It's actually not. Okay, so I just put the first question in the chat. The first topic. If it's simple.
There are actually a couple of questions already. Are these goals rank ordered? Ashish asked. The answer to that is those goals are not rank ordered. They are listed 1 through, what do we have, 8, I believe. They are not rank ordered, so they're considered equal weight to each of them, just to answer that question. And how did these compare to previous open space goals from Missy Hollenbeck? We would have to, we don't actually have those side-by-side comparisons today, but that is something you can email me and I can provide you with the previous. Actually, if you look at the, do we have the 2012 in the Dropbox? The previous? Was that in there? I'm getting a shaking of a head, yes.
Putting it in, but maybe it is in there.
Okay.
I know it's on the website. It's definitely on the website.
Yeah, it's on the website, so you can find it there if you want to compare 2012.
I don't think they were very different. I think they were similar, but I think there's one more, and I think they were changed a little bit.
Yeah. So I see a question from Jason as well about why these goals were unmet since the 2012 survey. So I think those kind of questions, we're going to try to stay on topic for now, Jason, if that's all right. We do have a limited time this evening. So right now we're just focused on that first one, which is indoor and outdoor recreational facilities. So what's satisfactory, what everyone thinks right now is online, what's satisfactory, what kind of programs or facilities you think are needed or need to be improved. This would be things like walking, well, indoor and outdoor recreation facilities. Could be like the tennis courts, could be basketball courts. I see here we have, there are no, okay, so in the cold months with snow, it is very difficult to get out and walk. St. V's and the mall are about the only choices. There are no sidewalks in most of town, and snowbanks and icy roads discourage a person from getting out. True, that's good. So we're going to take that comment into account. I don't know if it was really a question. the planning department as well as pursuing what's called the Complete Streets program, which overlaps somewhat with our open space and recreation goals. The whole idea behind Complete Streets is that a street is for cyclists and pedestrians as well as automobiles. And we are looking to get funding for that to increase sidewalks, the quality of sidewalks in town, and also the number and location of sidewalks. So it's a great comment, and we are saving these comments, so we're going to have a record of them. Are there any indoor, wait, hold on. Are there any indoor recreational facilities owned by the town other than the schools? Mimi, did you want to answer that? We also have Kevin Esposito here from Town Recreation, and
He's probably the better person to answer than me.
Kevin, do you know about that answer to that question?
No, I don't know of any indoor facilities that we have. Only the programs that are run out of the schools by the
Right.
park.
Great.
There was a question before that, Bernie. Could we add an
Oh.
outdoor rink to Dean Park for ice skating? I guess that's, oh, it says, oh, someone asked that privately to me. Oops, did not see that.
That's
Oh,
okay.
Otherwise, that's an option. If you could make sure that you're writing your comment or question to everyone and not to me. Not sure. Yeah. So that's sounds like a request, a question or request to add an outdoor rink to Dean Park for ice skating.
Yeah, that's actually, that's a really great idea, to have some sort of outdoor ice skating somewhere in town. So that's something the committee will take into account. So all your comments and questions are great, because the committee is going to meet after this and take your questions into account, right, in your comments. Even aspirational comments like outdoor ice rinks, that's great. I think the question from Lee and Lisa about indoor recreational facilities owned by the town other than the schools, and the question from Lisa, are there any indoor tennis, basketball facilities available for public use in town? I think if we took those questions and made them aspirational, right, we'd say these are something that these two people would like to see. So I think we would take that to the committee. I don't know of any publicly owned tennis and basketball facilities. I think to Kevin Esposito's remark is that he doesn't know of any either. Certainly not public ones that I know of. I believe there is a tennis facility, but it's private in town.
Right, the Shrewsbury Club.
Yeah.
Be the only indoor tennis, but it is privately owned.
It is private, right?
Can I?
Kevin, sorry, Kevin, could you introduce yourself? I know you introduced yourself as a committee member. Could you introduce yourself as your staff role in town as well, so people understand?
I'm the Kevin Esposito. I'm the division manager for the Parks and Cemetery Department.
Thank you. Mimi, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I see the next question is also about indoor. And I just wanted to say that, so the survey, this is interesting because of the survey, there was generally less satisfaction with indoor facilities. So I'm getting that sounds like there's a lot of requests for more about indoor facilities. So I'm just pointing that out, and that's definitely going to be part of incorporated into the report and what we focus on. So I'll read the next one. Could we open DRC for indoor yoga, indoor rowing machines off season, indoor meditation by the lake? I assume that's Lake Quinsigamon. That would expand the indoor option. What is DRC?
The
Kevin,
Donahue
what's-
Rowing Center? Yeah, the Donahue Rowing Center, which is
Right,
by Lake Quincy.
Oh, okay. Right. Anybody from the community already have a comment about that?
It would be something we would have to look into. I don't exactly know the rules and regulations there, but it's something we certainly make a comment of, and someone on the committee could reach out to DRC to find out how exactly that would work.
I'm pretty familiar with the facility. The meeting room that's in the main building it's not very big. It probably could hold about 15 or 20 people for an activity like that comfortably.
Great, thank you, Tom.
And hey, Peter Collins, DRC, the two parts of there's actually the boathouse there, and like he said, the main meeting room is probably, if you're doing yoga in there, he's probably right 15 people, maybe even less if you're really practicing social distancing. However, I believe that there's various clubs associated with the center that will, you can join and you can use the equipment. You can go in there and row, and you can actually not just row inside. You can row outside in season.
That's great, Peter. Thank you. That's really good insight. Okay, so I think that's something, yeah, we can look at as a committee for sure. So Melody Singh asks, in regards to outside facilities to promote community involvement and climate perspective, is the town interested in a community garden? I will let committee members answer that. When they view your question and comment, I mean, I think that's a great idea. I've seen it in plenty of other towns, and it's certainly something that could be incorporated into the open space plan. I don't recall seeing a section about community gardens, Mimi, so.
It was one of the unmet needs listed, I believe, on the survey, and there was
Unmet needs.
And there was
Okay.
some interest in community gardens. It wasn't one of the top ones, but
Okay,
It was
great.
Yeah.
certainly something we can look at. And then we have from Missy Hollenbeck, the Council on Aging had their 10-year goals and survey, and the percentage of elderly, as all towns in Mass, including Shrewsbury, is going to be a majority very soon, and what opportunities for them. We do have, I believe, in the draft right now, we do have about accessibility for the senior population, if I'm not mistaken. We can certainly look at strengthening that if we feel that it's not the language. And Missy, I would encourage you to take a look at the draft in the Dropbox and take a look for yourself at the language you've incorporated. If you think it should be stronger, if you have thoughts or ideas about rewording it, please go ahead and email me your suggestions. I would love to hear it. Maybe that's a good time to say, Mimi, I know I was going to say this at the end, but we will be taking outside of this forum once we wrap up tonight. If you have a brainwave later this week, something occurs to you as soon as we hang up here tonight, you can email myself or Emily Larson in the planning department any of your ideas or thoughts afterwards. So don't feel that if you've forgotten something tonight or you just can't think of what you wanted to say, you can email us all the way up till this Friday, September 4th. We'll be taking continuous comments. Did you want to read and look at the next one, Mimi? Ashish? Volunteer groups?
that one was more about one of the other topics, trail maps.
Okay, so Ashish, we're going to come back to that when we get to passive recreation. So that is good.
A few comments about passive recreation. One about cross-country skiing. So we'll come back to that. So that will be all trails up. Follow up on the community garden. What about a community greenhouse? Be a good thing to have at a community garden.
Right, you can have them side by side even.
Yeah. Definitely great ideas, great suggestions.
Then more support for skating rinks outside, that's great.
Oh, outdoor skating rink, a lot of support for that.
School and get together after school, social and supports.
From Sherry Seaton, there's one recreational center where middle school and up could get together after school and hold social events, sports after school. Yeah, good. Good idea. Yeah, and as I mentioned also, there was a significant number of people on this survey that mentioned that they like the idea of just a general indoor recreational center, like a large center that would incorporate a number of activities.
Melanie Petrucci. Melanie asked, she might have missed who you are, Mimi. So Mimi Kaplan is, she's working with us. She was from CMRPC, so Central Massachusetts Regional Planning I'm always going to get it wrong, commission. So she's been working with us. She's been our consultant through the process for updating the plan, in addition to town staff and the committee members. So, and then, okay, so why don't we move on? I'm seeing it's 6:40 almost. So maybe why don't you post the next topic for discussion?
Need to find the wording here.
Bernie, would you like
Yes.
me to share my screen with everyone and then allow the map that is posted as well for the open
Yes.
space?
Why don't you post the, put up the open space map now?
Okay, I will do that.
This will just help people orientate themselves.
Can you see that?
Great, though my chats have gone away. Oh wait, hold on. Can you make that map bigger? I just bigger, not smaller, I think. I think that's what she means.
Absolutely.
I think zoom in, and we can move around as if someone wants us to move in a certain
Absolutely.
place.
Okay, I can also read the question again, or the topic: open spaces for preservation or conservation, scenic areas and routes. What is needed and what are parcels that should be protected, and where are those parcels?
Yep, so we have, right off the top, we have a couple. From David, we have a comment that says, given the current momentum in the redraft of the OSRP and the grants available, can the Allen property / Suntech North property be rezoned and transferred from its failed master plan tenure to a successful start of the OSRP? 87% of the town in the survey said they would approve to pay for more open space, but we already own this land and it is a poster child for open space with its eco-rich resources and environmental impacts. So thank you, David, for your comment. So that is, Itis, could you go down to, do you know where Suntech Park North is?
Suntech Boulevard is down here.
Nope, it's not that one. It is up on South Street. So it's actually where you see Thomas Farm Circle. It's actually not highlighted here. So it's the where you see the stream coming in, you see Chestnut Street coming down. It's this where Hartford Turnpike and South Street meet. So yeah, that is definitely something that the committees can consider. So we'll take, like I said, all these chats are going to be saved. So the committee will have these comments to consider afterwards. Okay, there was a discussion briefly about the red hatching on it, the map.
Hey, Bernie, can we ask a direct question?
Absolutely.
Hey, David, when you're talking about rezone and transfer, did you have any kind of ideas as to what you wanted to do with that open spaces? I know there's been a bunch of conversations around things like indoor parks, et cetera. Did you have something specific in mind?
Can he unmute himself?
I don't know if he can unmute himself. He can certainly chat back if he wants to.
Okay.
I was just going back to some of the earlier questions that were asked. So going to open space while we wait for David to reply in chat or on voice. Ashish Kolagi said, we have some nice trails in town, but I think they could be better marked. So I think Ashish should get a lot of agreement from that from the Trails Committee, as well as the open space members. So we'll definitely take that into account.
I'll just mention that's more addressing the third topic.
Well, that's true. That's true.
Right. Or is this one passive recreation? Sorry, no, we could talk.
No, you're right. That's more passive. They do kind of overlap a little bit.
Yeah, they do.
So Mimi, I don't know if there's more you're seeing you want to read out loud.
I wanted to go back to some of the ones we had skipped earlier that were more about trails.
It should be protected. I would say dog parks are, I'm not sure if they would be in this section or if that would be more passive recreation. That'd almost be active recreation. How is we should facilitate that happening in all the cool kids' house. Okay, so I'm going to read this dog park one. It might overlap with number 3, but is this the question where a dog park would be discussed? Would love to learn more about the process and how, as residents, we can facilitate that happening. All the cool kids have some or are actively trying to have one. Northborough, Worcester, thanks. I agree with that. Actually, the new Market Basket development is going to incorporate a dog park because of high demand for them into their development. I know it won't be public, it will be for the residents there, but it is definitely a thing and it is happening. And even in, let's say I can add Maynard to that. I know there's a dog park where I live. It is definitely something that the committee can take up and think about. One thing you might talk to, or one group you might talk to would probably be start with the selectmen. That's always a good one to start with for something like that, because it would require probably some funding to get going. Jason Molina, second is the David's point about Allen Farm. It certainly seems to me like an option if it is unsellable. So there's some support for that idea. Many parts of town have little space. How can we get more green space to those areas? That's a great question. That's from Missy Hollenbeck. Prashant did ask her, do you have any specific areas in mind?
Yeah, specifics on that would be really helpful.
Yeah, specifics would be great. There are such things as what we call in planning circles, pocket parks, which there's not necessarily a set definition for them, but the idea is that it's not a full-blown Dean Park. Rather, it's a small parcel of land, maybe undersized, not buildable, or otherwise, in a neighborhood that you can use as a park for those neighbors. It requires some research and figuring out, but they are out there. So I think I would put your comment, Missy, under pocket parks in neighborhoods that don't have access to open green spaces. But to Missy's point, if you have something, or Prashantha's point, if you have something specific in mind, that's even better for us to hear because it helps the committee.
There was a question from Martha. Are the chapter lands on Green Street town owned? Maybe Martha knows. I don't know if Martha knows that. Or Martha Catch, are you there?
I'm here. I believe there was some confusion about the final status of those, and I don't have the details to go further into it.
I think we had that discussion with the Trails Committee, right, Martha? And I don't know either. I think the status is up in the air. So something to follow up on for sure.
Well, that's definitely something we probably would need to figure out before we submit the final report.
Yeah, if we're going to mention it specifically.
Well, yeah, because we need to list all the town-owned properties. So.
Oh yeah, yes.
Can you slide down the map that's on the screen, please, so that we can see Green Street area? Thank you.
And Karen says, I think the focus on linking of areas might be helpful in choosing which areas to grab for further interest for recreation. It's a really good comment, actually. And I think this maps like these help to see where those green areas are close and how we might be able to connect them. So I think that's a really good point.
Linking of areas is important for wildlife corridors as well as human recreation. So. Also, if Anne has any more specifics on what areas she thinks would be good to link and areas to grab, please email us or write that in the chat.
So a follow-up on the Allen Farm, we'd asked, I think Prashant had asked David to come back with something more specific. He wrote, nothing in specific, but offers all the amenities the town is addressing in its open space outreach. It also offers many historical and scenic points that are true assets to a town. So Prashant, there's your answer from David and for the committee. From Anne Maloney, we have, can we clean off bukas and make it a grand boathouse for sitting? It is a mess now with trash and vacant. Could be a wonderful place for all of us. And I don't know if you want to actually briefly join us to speak to that a little more, if you had something. I've not heard that idea before, so.
Sure. So I'm a rower person, and every day I row by that bukas, I think, this is ridiculous. This is one of the greatest assets. And if you look at the history books, like Michael Perna's books about the lake, there used to be great old parks and centers of cultural gathering along the lake. And Bukas has been empty for a long time, and it's just piled up with trash and old docks and chairs. And every once in a while I sneak down there and put my sailboat in there, but I wish that this was being used. And I don't know how long it's going to be empty. I'm sure that, you know, someone probably owns it and there's some kind of title issue or something, but it's a great place with a lot of parking and gives people lake access. And it's just a gem. It's been sitting there for, I don't know how many years, but it seems ridiculous to let it go.
This is the Buca de Beppe, was it? Or
yeah, the restaurant
the
that
one
went
on
under.
Route 9. Right.
Yeah,
okay.
It's just a huge eyesore.
Okay. No, yeah, I agree. I agree. It could definitely be used for something. Thank you for that comment. That's great. Missy says, love the pocket parks, have a great community feel to them. Lisa Grosskopf says, would it be possible to connect a trail from Route 20 around the proposed market basket to Flint Pond? There's an unofficial trail through the old drive-in. I really miss being able to walk through there. I would say to something like that, I'm not sure exactly to connect a trail from Route 20 around the proposed market basket to Flint Pond. If it does go on private land, the town would have to work out an agreement with the owners of that private land to allow public access. It's not impossible, but it is challenging, and it's certainly something we can keep on the books and talk about further.
That's why I'm saying it.
Someone is unmuted. So Jason Molina says, good to hear about complete streets. Using that to bring together the existing trails would be a great way to attract recreation and visiting people with their dollars to our town. Missy says trail opportunities connect to trails in other towns. Jason asks, is the former trolley line an option to make a rail trail? That does kind of go with more the passive recreation, I suppose. It's the Worcester, Boston to Worcester, I'm gonna always forget it, trolley line. This has been circulating around for a while, and I'm not exactly sure how to answer it at the moment, but it is a discussion we can have. It's in pieces, is one of the issues with that one. It wasn't maintained over the years, and there's been lots of encroachment on the right of way on it, which is one of the reasons towns have been moving quickly to get those trails up. Not dismissing it, I'm just saying it's challenging in Shrewsbury to for that to move forward, but it's not something we have ruled out.
I would also like to note, Bernie, that it's challenging partially because you have, you know, Arbor Drive over here along Route 9, and that's all part of a big apartment complex. So it's sort of difficult to go through an apartment complex to establish a bike path.
Yeah, there'd have to be some workarounds.
I could read Martha's. The chapter lands would be a significant addition to the town open space with passive recreation opportunities.
The green area.
You know, once again, we're overlapping into the passive recreation, but that's okay. So those were the chapter lands that were mentioned earlier, correct? Green Street.
Yes.
That's to the south, yeah, off of near Centec Boulevard and Fortune Boulevard, towards Grafton, the Grafton line. So then Ann Karen says, I'm looking at the big green area near Hawthorne Road and then one near Route 140. Grafton Street in between, but maybe we could get a thin easement to get from one to the other. Hawthorne, so we're looking at Hawthorne. Okay. Jason says, we're not really leveraging Lake Quincy. It's a general comment the committee can certainly take on board.
Melissa said, this is all great, but in the past, open space plans just died and were ignored. Funding is a big issue. I do think something that often happens is there's not necessarily an implementation committee, and it is really important to follow through. And it is true that funding is also a big issue.
Mo DiPaolo does write that the land on Green Street that we received from the state near Grafton does have some deed restrictions, though he can't find his public land spreadsheet at the moment.
And Maloney said, we should look at our walk score on Realtor websites and see if we can get that up a notch. Well, the complete streets would help with that, I would think.
So we had two more questions about Buca. One was that could the town use eminent domain to claim it? As we mentioned earlier, Buca is privately owned. Beth also weighs in on that. State Representative Kane has been working with the owners to address these issues. I believe, in fact, there was something between a tenant and an issue that was ongoing, some sort of dispute between a previous tenant. So we are working on it. I didn't realize State Representative Kane had also inserted herself into the conversation between the owners and what have you for going forward with that site. So that's good news. I had not heard that before. So
so Melanie Mcgee, who's on the Trails Committee. Melanie, you're still sending your messages just to me. I don't know if you can find where on the chat it says to everyone, but she said the Trails Committee would like to pursue trails on Rawson Hill, the Green Street property, and Slocum Meadow. We want connectivity with Northborough and Westborough. I was
Yes.
just.
Can I speak about that at all?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so there are a lot of places in town that we see on this map that we have looked at or wish to look at. And I know we have been warned away from the Green Street property because of the ambiguity of what, the title, I guess. But I'd just like to point out that the Trails Committee is minimally invasive and nothing that we would ever do is irreversible. And we might as well be enjoying that property while it's there. The worst things that we do are make a little paint spot on the tree to blaze them and, maybe trim back a few shrubs or something. So I'd like to see that opened up to us fairly soon, if that's possible. As regards the Rawson Hill, I believe that is state property, but I don't know why that would rule out, a trail. Is there some objection to that somehow? I mean, nobody's ever gone up there that I know that of trails that, to make a trail up there to look at that, that we would like to do that. Does anybody have any idea about that?
I mean, I do not. I don't know if there is anyone who's participating this evening who has an answer to those. I would say that this isn't necessarily to get the committee's opposition or support to any of these ideas. I think these are ideas that are going to be taken on by the committees. So, but if there is someone who has an answer to Melanie's questions, I think please speak up. Otherwise, I think the committee will take it under advisement. And I mean, like I said, we are recording this, and we do have, we're keeping up with the Zoom chat, so we do have all this on record.
Okay, and
Yeah.
what about the Slocum Meadow area? Now, we use the Gulf Street, Coralstrom Forest entrance and explore that property pretty thoroughly. That's owned partially by the town and partially by the New England Forestry Foundation. And it would not be a great stretch to move it out a little bit into the less wooded area. And I just wondered if that was available to us. If you look at the map, that big orangey spot is the NEFF property. And that other section to the left of that seems to be pretty open.
Yeah, so I think that would be under aspirational goals for the committee to consider to put into the plan. So something like that would be put under one of the goals to explore that as a possibility. So I don't know if the option is open to us, is what I'm trying to say, but it would be something the committee could charge whoever responsible party they want to put in charge of that in their plan for one of the tasks going forward. So that's a good idea. These are all, Melanie, these are all really good ideas, and I like those good ideas. That's great. We do have a lot of other comments coming up.
I will relinquish the floor.
Let's see. Melanie, Mimi, do you want to hit the next one? The next question?
Yeah, I mean, it's already basically become a conversation about passive recreation. I don't know that I even need to type it in, but I can, the last topic is connectivity and passive recreation, walking, hiking, biking, what is needed to improve and expand trails and connectivity. So,
yeah.
we're definitely already into that topic. So any more topics, any more comments about that or questions about that? And also anything else about preservation or conservation, since there wasn't that much about that topic.
While people are writing down their questions, Mimi, I would like to answer back to Deborah's answer earlier this evening, and it's the All Trails app. The All Trails app is a great resource and tool. I actually use it quite frequently when I'm hiking and walking around parts of Massachusetts. And there's spots of hiking that you would have never found that may not even be located on this map that someone saw. I was like, this is a forest trail and it connects to another town. Stuff that may not be on this map that shows it's connected to another town might be shown through the All Trail app. And it would be a great resource if you guys have ever used it and you want to go and email us any existing trail networks that you have found on the app and can link them to stuff that we have here in Shrewsbury. That would be a great resource as well.
Thank you. Yeah, good point. I think we could easily put that into the plan to establish or I should say to create links on what we do have to establish resources like All Trails. So it's a really good idea. I wanted to go back. Oh, it jumped on me. Oh, so Martha Miletta says some open space has only limited protection. For example, Jordan Pond recommends that there be a higher level of protection for some areas. So great point, and certainly will be taken under consideration by the committee. Ashish Kolagi says entrance to Eaton trails. Would like to see more better entrance to Eaton trails. I believe it's better marked.
Yeah, there were a few comments about better marking, trails needing to be better marked. So we'll take that into consideration.
Camp Winnigan is, somebody asked about what is Camp Winnigan. If you look down on 140 towards Grafton, it is an old, so before, if I'm not mistaken, you drive by on your way to the UPS facility. It's on heading south on your right-hand side. This is something I have been off and on trying to talk to Highway, DPW, open space about perhaps setting up a turnoff there if possible, to do some sort of trailhead. It's come to naught so far, but it is a large parcel of land that could be opened up more to hiking and those kinds of activities. So something that I believe probably should be in the plan to explore those possibilities. So Mo writes, about 25 years ago, the town voted this is Mo DiPaolo, selectman member and resident. Town voted a $5 million debt exclusion to purchase open space. Many parcels were purchased, including the property at SAC Park. Then there's a little bit of a back and forth about that. Is that called Coralstrom Memorial Forest on the current trails map? That I don't know.
Melanie would know that.
So Mo DiPaolo, again, selectman, did have an answer to, or at least some information about Jordan Pond. Writes, the deeds for the town-owned land around Jordan Pond are unknown. We do not know if the land was acquired with any deed restrictions. He's still researching this. We'll be talking with the Registrar of Deeds because she said she may have staff that could research the old records for more information. So that's great that Mo is taking the lead on that. It's really good to hear.
Yeah. Jason Molina said adding sidewalks from the Wachusett Circle and Slocum Meadow and neighborhoods to Coralstrom Forest would be beneficial for safe travel to it. Yeah, is that, can you point out Coralstrom Forest?
Oh, I'm so sorry.
No worries.
Coralstrom Forest.
Yeah, no worries. That's fine. I was just in a meeting.
So Coralstrom Forest is I believe it's the big orange land in the center towards the upper part.
Okay.
We do have another map with some labels on it. So I just asked Itis to put that one up to see if we can, that will help orientate us towards what we're talking about, different locations in town.
Maybe I'll just read another comment. Naomi Gannon, familiar with the All Trails app. However, we still have notably fewer trails and bike paths than neighboring towns. Hoping we can improve that. Lots of prospective homeowners looking for those features. Good for property values as well as quality of life. Yes. Maureen Harrington asks, what is the plan for bike lanes in the center of town? Is there anyone who can answer that one?
So bike lanes for Main Street were put in as part of the improvement project from 290 to the center of town, which were completed, I believe, a year and a little more ago. The state controls Maple Avenue, so it would be working with Mass DOT to try to get bike lanes for the center. I know the right of way is very narrow. When we worked on the town center zoning district that recently passed. That was one of the concerns that we had when talking about wider sidewalks. To get bike lanes, at least in the Maple Ave stretch, would be challenging. It's not to say unheard of, but it would be challenging. I think there'd be better luck trying to find a way from points east. So from the library towards Dean Park, the road is quite wide in parts, where you could probably get the bicycle trails in much easier. So that's something I'd say I'd focus our efforts on rather than the Maple Ave stretch. But we do have them now up to the center on Main Street.
Are any of the complete street projects bike related at all, or are they just sidewalks?
So we kind of got, so some are bike related. I believe it was CMRPC who helped us out with that study as well, for phase 1 and phase 2 of complete streets. We did identify parts where you could put bicycle lanes as well as sidewalks. So they identified every area of need. We kind of, the whole COVID thing, and then Chris McGoldrick, the previous assistant planner who's the lead on complete streets, left. So between that, I just coming on, and obviously not being familiar with it, and then COVID hitting, we've not gotten back onto phase 3, which is to fund programs and pilot programs for complete streets. But it is on our to-do list now, going forward for the next 12 months. So it is something hopefully you'll be hearing about more in the future. So, all right. I don't think I just had any luck with that map. So do you have it, Mimi, the one you sent earlier, the one with the labels on it? If you could share that, that'd be great.
All right. I can go to my Dropbox.
Is there, and so a question, Ann Maloney asked, can anyone from the Lake Commission add anything about the vision for Lake Quinsigamond? I presume to see if it overlaps with the vision for OSRP. I don't know if anyone from Lake Quinsigamond, the Lake Commission is on tonight, you can answer that.
Okay, Peter Collins. A vision for Lake Quinsigamond there's many, but from an open space perspective, if you really look at Lake Quinsigamond, the entire thing is open space. And every part of that lake that's in Shrewsbury is an opportunity for kayaking and paddleboarding and canoeing and swimming and other things. So, you know, really it's probably the single biggest open space we have in town, and it borders our entire western side. Is basically waterfront. And we share some of the lake with Worcester and Grafton as well. I think the biggest potential land-wise for Shrewsbury here would be on Flint Pond at Oak Island, which is right next to the Flint Pond boat ramp. And part of that land is owned by the state, the actual boat ramp itself, and just west of that. On the east side of it, it's a nice tract of land, and I believe it's passive recreation right now as far as the zoning. But it's got, I'm going to say, probably 1,500 feet or so, maybe more of waterfront on it. It's a flat land. It's got trees. It's got a trail all the way around the perimeter there. So that could make a lot of, you could do a lot of things with that, including, you know, have access to you know, to get to the water, you know, with a kayak or a canoe or something like that. And certainly the boat ramp's right there. You know, it's got a sordid history a little bit because some nefarious activities were going on down there, but that's pretty much cleaned up. And now we have people using it as a beach, as a family recreation area over there for a while. And, you know, there's some trash issues and whatnot, but it's still a nice piece of land and something that you should probably be on the list for improvement. Other than that, I never really thought about the Buca property there. That's an interesting proposition. I mean, it's private property, and it's, you know, worth a couple $1 million. So I don't know if that's something the town wants to tackle. And something else the town could consider, or this committee could consider as well, is looking at maybe acquiring land at the boat ramps. There's one right next to DCI, which is the Leo Corazzini ramp. That's on the north end of the lake. And there's one down here at Flint Pond, which is the Flint Pond boat ramp. Both of these, the properties, the boat ramp properties themselves, are owned by the state but managed by the town. So the town actually manages the spaces already. But there has been some interest or talk about maybe acquiring the land the actual boat ramps, so that we can better manage, the lake and access and whatnot. That's all I have.
Thank you. No, that's great. I think that was a lot more information than I'd even hoped for. So thank you so much for that. That's great. Ashish asks, is there any possibility of using any of the land beyond the India Center near the 290 exit to make trails, etc., would allow people to bike down Main Street? I hadn't considered it so far. It can certainly be considered by the committee after this forum when it regroups. So we'll make the note of that one. Anne Maloney, now maybe Kevin Esposito knows an answer to this one. Is it okay to use the mountain bike area at the high school? Is that open to us under the ropes course? I don't know if Kevin, you have an answer for that question.
As far as I know, it is open to the public. People are up there all the time. As long as they don't interfere with gym classes and stuff like that when the kids are outside.
Okay, great. Thank you, Kevin. Jason Molina says, this new map on the screen shows an opportunity to link trails at the high school with Worcester Rifle Range to Coralstrom Forest. So I don't know, maybe if you want to focus in on the upper left area there.
Sorry, I can't remember how to get rid of all the stuff on the top. But...
That's okay. So in the upper left, you can see here it says Shrewsbury HS, that's the high school. You have the Worcester Rifle Range. I mean, the biggest obstacle there is, of course, 290. I mean, 290 really does cut off a lot of the very northern quadrant of Shrewsbury with the rest of the town. It's just, so we are at 7:15. Let's see. Perhaps there's a bridge area to use under the highway. Okay, I didn't realize that part. So we're at 7:15. So we're still looking for any comments about the passive recreation or open spaces at this time. So if there's anything else about trails, hiking, bicycling, picnicking, what have you, fishing, now's the time certainly to raise that issue. Are there any comments we missed that anyone would like us to go back and address?
Yeah, we might have skipped over some of the trails related questions earlier on, so.
So if we did miss an earlier comment you made, you want to copy and paste it again, we will do what we can to address it.
Any thought of working with neighboring towns to connect, create trails? Main Circle off Main Street has a trail that runs along Ski Ward. It would be neat to have a trail that runs to Northborough Crossing. Someone said, can we walk at Ski Ward?
Ski Ward were ever up for sale, would there be interest in keeping it open space? I'm sure there would be interest in keeping it open space. Whether it be financially feasible is those are always two different questions. Whether the town and town meeting would be up for voting for it to finance that purchase. I know that ski areas are getting more and more creative as the weather gets warmer. I look at Neshoba Valley in Westford and Littleton. They have started to open up more to summer opportunities. And of course, the Haunted Hayride right at Neshoba Valley. They have a tiki bar there in the summer. They have camps there. So it may not be public per se, but it is getting a lot of use by the public because they're opening up their activities so much to keep themselves financially viable 12 months of the year. So I don't know. And I know Ski Ward now has, I don't know if they've always had this since before even I got to town, but they do have some summer activities, volleyball, barbecuing. So I don't know if they open it up to everyone. That's something to look into for sure.
But do you know if they let people hike there?
That I don't know. That I don't know if you
Curious
can be
about
there.
Good question.
Someone wrote, so this is Ann Cairns. I like the idea of making more of the lake frontage. Making more of the lake frontage. Sorry if I read it the right way. Kayak and canoe access would be nice in the southern part of the lake where it is a little less busy with motor boats. Okay, that's a good comment. It's something the committee will take on board for sure.
Melanie said Ski Ward is private, but the land to the south of it is town property. Jason said we could also have a partnership with the Historic District and Historic Commission for a walking trail through downtown, highlighting historic buildings.
That's a good one.
That's probably a really good one, Bernie, because it can tie in with our town center rezoning.
Yeah, there's also the there's cultural corridors that you can get the state to recognize as well. So that's something we could pursue. David writes, you could plunk a couple of picnic tables down and start using the Allen Farm as a family-friendly outdoor space. Tomorrow, space for walking. Lots of wildlife. And Louise Guerin says, sorry, that Coralstrom Memorial Forest is actually SUASCO.
I think there are two Coralstrom Memorial Forests. There's 1 and 2. We have one in Shrewsbury, and the other one is wherever the other one is that Louise found.
Okay.
Actually, Jason Molina has a very interesting idea. Could we look at asking private owners of places like Ski Ward for a first right of refusal to buy that property? I had not heard that suggestion before, and I'm not exactly sure where we would start. I don't know if Mo DePaulo is still on and has some thoughts into how that arrangement gets made for things like that. I don't know if there's anyone else on there. Kevin Esposito has thoughts into rights of first refusal and how the town goes about establishing that with private property owners, any private property owner. Missy mentions various plans mention Community Preservation Act, which would cover many of the things we were talking about. And I know if you are interested in things like that, the CPA is going to be on the ballot this November for the town residents to vote on.
Melanie said she's vice chair of the Historic District Commission, can bring up at a future meeting what was brought up before about the trail through downtown.
Yep.
Let's see, Ashley.
Ashish. Yep.
Sorry, Ashley. Ashish, sorry. From the map, it looks like we could even connect Main Street past India Center to Lake Quincy. Looks like there are a few large town-owned properties there. So,
It's in the upper left.
right part. Oh, upper part. Oh, sorry.
It's so right where it says Lambert Wells.
Okay. Yep.
And the Corazini boat ramp. So that's that exact area, right where the word Wells is not too far from where you would see the India Society, and then you can see it connects. He's not wrong, actually. There are some there that could be connected all the way down to Donahue. So good idea, Ashish. Thank you.
All right, and Maloney said Sudbury, Assabet, and Concord River Association. Oh, okay, that's what Suasco is. They own stuff. Oh, do they own stuff in our town? Don't know.
That I don't know the answer off the top of my head.
Good question. Martha said Coralstrom is owned by New England Forestry Foundation. Okay. The Coralstrom, Melanie says the Coralstrom part that is Suasco is in Northborough on Main Street, roughly opposite Bigelow's. Melissa says Sudbury Valley trustees own parking areas near Broken Creek Vineyard. Go up to Hill Street, please. Okay. Oops. Yep. Was there something in particular on Hill Street? Oh, just to look at this.
It's the Suasco flood control.
Oh, okay, sorry. And Martha says half of Shrewsbury is in the Assabout watershed, so it's pertinent to Suasco. Okay, right.
Great. So we're into about the last 4 or 5 minutes before we offer closing remarks. Is there anything else? Land purchases. So Jason says, echoing that, land purchases for the protection of our water wells is important strategically.
Bernie, I just wanted to mention Jim Brown Parks and Cemetery.
Yes,
Somebody mentioned
absolutely.
fishing earlier. Through some state funding, we are getting a fishing pier down on Jordan Pond.
All right.
A little bit of a delay due to
Right.
COVID. I'm not quite sure of the timeline, but that is in the works.
Thanks, Jim. That's great information. And good news if you like fishing. Mo writes, I'm not familiar with how a town would secure right of first refusal. Chapter 61 properties have that provision, but for land not under that designation, I'm not sure how to do it. Usually the right of first refusal usually requires the person getting that right to pay a sum of money to secure it. However, it might be possible to negotiate that without having to put up funds. So it sounds like a question for town council, were we to pursue that with any property in town that's private. Not chapter 61. So next steps, Missy. So Mimi's going to reiterate what the next steps were that she mentioned earlier. I'm not sure if you saw that in the PowerPoint, but she's going to reiterate what those next steps will be after that. And then we'll take it from there.
There were just 2 more comments here.
Yep.
And said, will that be an accessible pier at Jordan for wheelchairs?
Good question.
A question for.
Yes, it meets all the Handicap Disabilities Act.
Yeah, great. And then Jason said there used to be a public beach on Jordan, right? Did there used to be a public beach on Jordan?
Great. So we'll give it another second to see if there are any other comments. If not, Mimi's going to just repeat what the next steps are. And then I will sign off for my side as well. So
I could stop screen sharing, probably. All right. Yeah, I'll just say again what I said in the slideshow. So there was a lot of really great feedback tonight. So we have the saved chat and the notes that Emily took. Those will be incorporated into the report and into the goals and objectives. You know, and the goals and objectives can include, you know, like some specifics of particular parcels, particular trails, things that we really want to focus on, as well as the action steps. And the action steps are even more specific. And then the committee will meet again once or twice. We're trying to wrap this all up by the end of October. So I will finish up the draft report, submit it to the town for approval, and then the final report will be submitted to the Department of Conservation Services. Once they approve it, then the town is eligible to apply for the state grants that we talked about. Is there anything else, Bernie, that you?
Yeah, well, first of all, I just wanted to thank everyone for taking the time on a Monday night to join us and for your feedback. These have been some great ideas and comments. I'd like to thank Idis Rudis and Emily Larson for helping out on the staff. From here on out, the committee, the staff, and CMRPC will, like as Mimi said, to reiterate, we're going to be taking everything we heard this evening on board as we move forward to completing the final draft. If you do have any additional feedback that you weren't able to provide us this evening or you didn't think of until after tonight, we will be taking comment from the public, yourselves included, obviously, up until this Friday, September 4th. So you can email me, bcahill@shrewsburyma.gov or elarson@shrewsburyma.gov. You can find our emails online. You can also, if you Google Shrewsbury OSRP, it will take you to the website where you can get updates and further information. And of course, the Dropbox links that you had already have some of the draft information. So if you have any comments about anything between now and this Friday, please email me. That would be great. And again, thank all of you for participating. We really appreciate it. It's been some great turnout. So much appreciated.
Yeah, thanks very much, everybody.
All right. Enjoy your evenings.
Thank you.
Thank you.